Hey brand builders, in today's videos, 5 killer ideas to market your clothing brand. If you're launching a clothing brand or if you're already running a clothing brand, you know that the market space right now is pretty saturated, right? It's like every single day, new and new brands are coming out, and the bigger brands are actually morphing and they're sort of evolving so that they're not the big giant slow moving kind of behemoths that they were before, but they're becoming agile. They're moving into new markets. They are trying to look at trends and they're attacking those trends very proactively. Now, 10 years ago, let's say, or even 5 years ago, the bigger brands had a certain style, they had a certain kind of life cycle for their collections, for their clothing lines, for their releases, and so on and so forth. And of course, the bigger luxury ones always had, a set structure. They would have a fashion show come up, and then, of course, after a certain kind of time period, some of those kind of clothes or designs, apparel that they showed off in the fashion shows would then come into production, right? They had definitive product life cycles. But now the scene has changed. Big brands, big fashion houses, they are becoming agile. They are just coming into the market with smaller and smaller kind of production life cycles. So what does this mean to you as a small independent fashion brand? How are you to compete with these kind of larger brands? And not only that, but also even the saturation, the red ocean of smaller indie brands themselves, right? There are many indie brands just like you in the market. Everybody is trying to make some noise, and the social media, for example, Instagram used to be a fantastic place for an indie brand to come in and make some noise, gain some following, and of course get some sales or a lot of sales. But now social media itself, Instagram itself, has become highly saturated. It is very difficult now to make the same kind of noise on Instagram and to get that kind of following, to get that kind of sales and revenue. So where do we start? You're not going to say that you got to always start with your brand strategy, right? But in this case, let's just boil down to one thing: your brand story. Now, I'll see a lot of the times on Instagram or online, independent brands, small fashion brands, clothing brands, apparel brands, they don't really have a story. They talk about their products, of course, their designs, but mostly it is a kind of salesy pitch that they have across all channels. If you go to their YouTube, if you go to their website, if you go to Instagram, you see it's all about sales. Or they keep offering these discounts and they're maybe waiting for the next kind of holiday or special event or special day, and then they have a discount to offer. Now, they don't really work. All these things that you do on the periphery, which are salesy, don't really work, especially if you're starting out. They may work for larger brands. They may work for brands that have been around for a long time, but not for indie brands, not for a brand that is upcoming, not for a brand that is just launching out, especially in the clothing, fashion, apparel, or even accessories kind of market segment. So you need a brand story. What does that mean? You got to identify, of course, who your target audience is, but don't make the mistake of trying to please everyone in that market. Don't have a generic kind of a rough market segment like all 18 to 35-year-old females or something like that. That never works. Sometimes you'd be shocked at how a lot of the independent or smaller kind of fashion or clothing brands don't even have that. They sort of, it's either females or males or sometimes even unisex, right? It's for everyone. Our clothes are for everyone. If it's, for example, a t-shirt brand, right? They believe that their t-shirts are for everyone. Maybe so, but that's not the way you market. When you're marketing, you need to be very specific. When you're promoting your brand, you need to be very laser-like in terms of targeting And once you do that, your peripheral kind of target audience, your tertiary kind of target audience, they will come into the fold. You don't need to worry about that. But trying to please everyone, trying to target everyone, you target no one. So you got to be really careful about that. When you're doing your brand story, identify and target a specific niche kind of audience, right? Pick one particular person, and get to know that person. Give that person a name and get to the bottom of who this person is, what kind of a worldview they have, what they do on a daily basis, what they love, what they hate, what they stand for, all these things, and then create a story to align with that. I'm not talking about lies. I'm talking about a story that still represents your brand, that still represents who you are, that still kind of has your core values at heart. Okay, so that is the brand story. That's number one. The first one, the most important kind of strategy is to have your brand story. Next, create a catchy tagline. Right, now, it is a difficult job to create a tagline, right? It's quite tough to come up with catchy taglines. And if you look at some of the examples, let's look at a few examples. Levi's says, a style for every story. Okay, that's a very interesting tagline. So Levi's is tapping into the fact that every one of us has stories in our lives, and they have a style to match each story. Beautiful tagline. Or if you look at Alexandra, clothes that mean business. So Alexandra is a brand that specializes in workwear clothing. And the tagline points out that, this is about work. Okay, you want to mean business, you wear Alexandra. Beautiful. Then Jansen. All girls are gorgeous in Jansen. Okay, these guys are swimwear pioneers, and they started in 1901, and they did not have a strong slogan till about the 1960s. And then, of course, they had their first slogan, which was just wear a smile and a Jansen. That was a campaign. And then they had another one, which was like, it must be magic. This was in the 1990s. And then they have the latest one, which is all girls are gorgeous in Jansen. Now, this is a sublime slogan, right? And it positions them beautifully in a noisy market. All girls are gorgeous in Jansen. Beautiful. Then you have Diesel, Be Stupid. This is a campaign launched by Diesel in 2010. And it encourages customers to take risks and move beyond the smart and sensible track of life. Of course, this is an evocative kind of slogan, right? And such kind of evocative, kind of challenging slogans only suit brands that sort of use this challenging or negative marketing for their branding. So I would not really recommend that unless you're really pushing the boundaries, you're pushing the envelope, so to speak. Then you have Calvin Klein. Nothing comes between me and my Calvins. Okay, this is a humorous kind of slogan, but it connects distinctively with the audience, right? Now, on the one hand, it makes a nod of the head and thinks that it's true, like you're thinking, nothing comes between me and my Calvins, right? So because it's underwear, it's the closest to your body, and nothing comes between me and my Calvins. It also means that you would rather have your Calvins than anything else, right? You would fight for your Calvins. Beautiful, very clever. It's a brilliant marketing strategy. Then you have Lee, the jeans that built America. Okay, they're using heritage as a concept, right? It's brand heritage that comes across. And Lee announces to the world that Lee jeans were what almost everyone used to wear when they built the American railroads, the towns and the cities, and the gold rush and all these things, the jeans, the Lee jeans. So they are proud of their heritage, and they're using heritage very strongly with the slogan, with the tagline. So try and come up with a catchy slogan, a catchy tagline. Okay, so when you're coming up with and launching a clothing or a clothing brand or a fashion brand, there is a certain structure that you would be following, right? So first, you would come up with designs. Of course, after you come up with the idea of why you want to have a clothing brand, or what kind of a clothing brand you're going to have, on all that, building the brand story and all that. Then you sort of come up with some prototypes. Maybe you come with designs. You then try and find a company that does a prototyping, or maybe you're making your own prototypes. If it's t-shirts, for example, it's very simple. Of course, you either get an online screen printer, or maybe you're screen printing at home, or in your shop, so on and so forth. And then you decide that it is time to launch your brand, and you then either fill up in inventory, or you may decide to go, you might decide to fulfill the orders as you go, right, as sales happen. And then you jump into marketing and you announce to the world, and you say, okay, my shop is open, right? You might have an online shop, a few designs, few clothes, whatever. The shop is open and you're saying, okay, this is it. Come and buy. And usually you would say, okay, we're launching, so here is a 50% discount code. And you might do this on social media, right? You might do this on social media, and you might say, get this discount code, come and take advantage, and so on and so forth. Now, usually this kind of marketing and launching might not really give you the kind of sales that you expect. And that's because you haven't done any prep work, right? So you always need to have a kind of a soft launch, right? A soft launch is always required. So what that means is, even before you do your prototyping, well, maybe after you do your prototyping, but even before you fulfill or sort of you stock up on inventory, you need to sort of have a soft launch where you're announcing your brand, you're telling the stories, you're building the relationships, you're building the community, you're creating engagement online. And during this time, you need to have a campaign, maybe a giveaway campaign, right? A campaign where you're giving away something, and this is not your clothes, this is not the product itself. You're giving away something that is related to your brand story, that is related to your target audience. That's why the first step is so important, to build your brand story, to come up with a brand story, right? So you're giving away something that you know that your target audience will absolutely love or they care about. And that's why I keep harping on about understanding your target audience, right? Understanding your buyer persona, coming up with one single person who you think is going to buy your clothes or apparel or accessories, right? That's very important. So this giveaway campaign can be anything that your audience will care about, and it doesn't have to be too expensive. It could be something reasonable. It could be something that maybe you can give away for 5 people. And then you put together a campaign. And this campaign could be a simple one. If you want to have a lot of engagement, if you want to have a lot of participation, make it easy. You may have noticed that sometimes when they're promoting a film or something and they have a giveaway campaign, the questions they ask are really simple. So there's one question with maybe 3 or 4 multiple choice answers, right? A, B, C, D. And these are very obvious. And when you look at that, you think, oh my God, this is so stupid, right? Why is this question so stupid? Why? It's so simple. And the reason is, when it is so simple, everyone will participate. Everyone will pitch in. And on social media, for your soft launch, when you have a simple question with simple answers, you will have a lot more engagement. So do a soft launch. Give away something that is not your product, but something that your audience cares about. And you probably ask a question about your product and say, I'm conducting a campaign, a giveaway campaign where I need advice, right? So this is my question. When should I launch? Or I don't know, something like that, right? And then it's got some answers. Or what do you care about? And then it got some answers. And I'm giving away 5 lucky winners, and I'll have a draw, and each of them will get, I don't know, a makeup kit, or I mean, if it's a female audience, or if it's men, then maybe handcrafted leather wallets, right? And this one, which is going to tie into one of the points that I'm going to talk next, is find a partner, right? Let's say you're coming up with jeans or t-shirts, t-shirt designs, or even shoes. I don't know, right? Unless if it is leather wallets, then that's different, right? If your product is leather wallets, then it really wouldn't work. But seek out and find a partner who creates leather wallets, someone who is up and coming, right? And they are on YouTube maybe, and they handcraft their leather wallets. Have a campaign, co-campaign with them where you're promoting them, you're giving away their leather wallet, 5 of them. You could pay them, of course, but they also promote your campaign, so on and so forth. So I will talk about that in the next point, which is to find promotional partners. So promotional partners are just that. You find a partner who can promote your products or your brand, and you promote theirs, but you do it in a mutually beneficial way, right? It's not, you don't trade money. Typically, you don't give them money or they don't give you money, but you trade kind of your brand awareness. Now, if you don't have much of a following on social media, if you don't have a big community, if you haven't built up your community on Instagram, if you haven't built up your community on Pinterest or YouTube, then of course it'll be hard to find promotional partners who would come forward to sort of have a mutual cross promotion, right? So yeah, that's why I always say you gotta spend time even before your product is ready, building up that community. And I will do a separate video on how to build up that community, how to create that audience well before, don't wait till your product is ready. Don't wait till your apparel is ready, till your clothing is ready. Don't wait till the last minute. Don't wait till you're about to launch, right? Get it done. Go for it. Start off as soon as you get the idea for your brand, then just start building that community. It is critical. It has to be done, right? It has to be done the moment you think you have an idea. And then finally, find some YouTube talent. Now, before I would have said find Instagram talent, right? Find someone on Instagram that can promote your products or your clothing. But now Instagram is so saturated that it still works, and I would still recommend that, but because I said 5, I will leave Instagram out of this list. I will do a separate video on how to promote and sort of find partners on Instagram. But for this video, let's talk about YouTube, because YouTube still rocks. And so find some upcoming talent on YouTube that can promote your brand, your upcoming brand. Now, the thing with finding upcoming talent on YouTube, most of indie brands, clothing brands, fashion brands, they think that they need to find someone who is in a similar segment, right? Either they're fashion vloggers, or they're beauty experts, beauty gurus, or something like that. And what they then end up happening is it's difficult to find people like that who are already having a lot of audience. And if they do find them, they're expensive. It's very expensive, right? So my suggestion is find someone who is related to what your target audience loves, right? Not your brand. They don't have to be related to your brand. Have you noticed, for example, that a lot of photographers on YouTube promote Squarespace or something like that, which is a website company, right? It's a website platform. Or you might see that a lot of YouTube gurus, or rather YouTube influencers who talk about cameras and lenses and all that, actually have they promote or affiliate program that's got nothing to do with cameras, but it got something to do with people who love cameras, which is their target audience. Just like that, once you identify your target audience and you understand who your target audience is, find kind of influencers that are targeting your audience, but they might be talking about something that's nothing to do with your clothing, right? But why? Because your target audience are watching these videos, and this influencer can probably say, well, you know what? Maybe send them a prototype, or if it's a finished product, send them a t-shirt or a pair of jeans or your loafers, or shoes or whatever, and ask them to promote it. Now, of course, you got to pay for it. On YouTube, mostly no one is going to do free promotion, so you got to work through, and I think that is the best kind of investment. Instead of investing in pay-per-click, Google AdWords, or even Facebook advertising. I used to advocate Facebook advertising in 2019, 2018, a few years back. Now, Facebook advertising has become a really, really competitive, it's a very difficult medium. And unless you have enough money to hire a consultant or an expert who takes care of your Facebook advertising, I would not recommend dumping your money directly into Facebook advertising. You will end up losing it. So I would say invest whatever budget you have into YouTube promotions, and not YouTube advertising, but finding an influencer and having them build a relationship. I'm going to do a video on how to actually find brand ambassadors and how to build a relationship, and I will leave a link later on. So once I post this video, by the time you watch this, maybe I would have done that video and I would post that link in here. But I will sort of do a separate video on how to find ambassadors and how to market with them. But for the scope of this video, just look at YouTube influencers related to your target audience and have them promote your brand. I hope you found this list useful. I know it's only 5 strategies and I took a long time dwelling on each of them. It's because these are not unique strategies, right? So it's not about just rattling off one strategy after another. I'm trying to give you peripheral knowledge in terms of, so when I talk about tagline, now everyone knows that you need a tagline, but then I sort of pack in overall kind of branding and marketing and strategy behind it. So I hope you appreciate that. I hope you like this video, and leave your questions below, your comments. If you have any ideas that you can throw in, just leave them below. Subscribe to my channel, like this video, and till my next video, take care, have prosperity.